So we got another Ghost Rider book. Talked about this on this channel lots of different times, how Ghost Rider is one of my favorite characters. Recently we had Ghost Rider drop, and this new Ghost Rider, issue number 1, what it seems to be talking about and discussing is both Ketch and Johnny Blaze. Now Ghost Rider, depending on what era you grew up in, it really depends. I think of Johnny Blaze more so, but a lot of people think Danny Ketch when it comes to Ghost Rider. Johnny Blaze to me is always the OG, and I will say that writers have done a great job in making sure that that is the case. They're different, obviously, but they're the same in the same respects, and they've done a great job in saying, look, man, this is the first, right, that you know about. And this particular book, in order to understand what's going on with Ghost Rider, you'd have to really read some older books. I mean, if you're reading Avengers, for example, that's not dealing with either one of these guys. I'm pretty sure Robbie Reyes is going to pop up in, but more so Johnny Blaze does sort of make an appearance in the new Avengers, or the current Avengers run, excuse me. And this one doesn't deal with that one, Robbie Reyes. And I also talked about on this channel Alejandra Jones. She's dead. So right now you have Robbie Reyes, who is going through his whole little deal. He doesn't really want to be a Ghost Rider. Ketch doesn't really want to be a Ghost Rider as well, but just understand that if you're reading that, what's going on in Avengers is not the same characters that are being talked about here. This is why I said I think they should kill a lot of these guys off. This is why I said Alejandra Jones, her being killed off was a good thing. Because we have too much of this. We have too much of this, and we have the same character existing all over the place. And again, for those that are trying to get into these books, you read something like Avengers and then you read this, it's not gonna make any sense, and then you gotta, oh, wait a minute, it's not the same one. Because it's not. Right now, though, the important thing to note is that Johnny Blaze is the king of hell, if you will. And this talks a lot about, and Mephisto is not the king of hell anymore. It's sort of dethroned Mephisto. They see him as an illegitimate king. So there's a lot of different issues and conflict that is coming from that alone. If you read this comic, really it talks about a lot of that, where he has his own power struggle that's going on. And right now, through Hell and Back, you're having these different characters that are crossing back and forth between, again, Hell. And what's going on is that Blaze, he comes up, he's like, hey man, these people are leaking out. You got Ketch fighting one of these little demons, and obviously he links up with Blaze. It's like, oh, those are one of my guys and such. And Blaze is like, dude, I could really use your help. Ketch is like, I don't want no part of this. You want to come by, have a beer. By the way, Danny Ketch owns his own bar. He's like, you want to have a beer? We can have a beer, but I'm not really with all of that. And really the whole thing that's happening by the end of this is that they're trying to make it seem as if he's going mad with power. That is Johnny Blaze. So he's not as rational anymore. And that's sort of the setup going into the next issue. If you read this, is that, oh, Johnny Blaze is gonna end up having some sort of conflict. He's gonna have a conflict with maybe even the other Ghost Riders because of this whole power trip that he may be going on. The thing that I liked about this is hell is other places. And the reason, this is by the end of the book, by the way, this doesn't really have a lot to do with the story, but I thought that it was such a cool thing that the artists, they put in, more so the writers put here within the book. Because if you know there's these different like underworld sort of places that happen throughout Marvel, you can be very confused as far as, all right, if so-and-so dies, where do they go? Why do they go there versus other places? And they talk about how there's hell, there's limbo, Niflheim, Eighth City, Below Place, Somnus, Dark Dimension, Hades, Brimstone Dimension, and so forth. So they're basically saying, and they give a brief sort of description as far as what goes on, why, you know, you have that region known as Hell when you talk about the Asgardians and such. So all of that's there, and they talk about all of that by the end of this comic book. It gives the reader a refresher, and if you don't know it, and if you're just confused, it lets the reader in on what's going on in these different places and how there's other concepts of hell outside of what we've known as the dimension that Mephisto has ruled over. So I thought that was a cool thing that really didn't have a lot to do with the story, but it was a cool thing that they put in this comic. And I would encourage a lot of writers to do that a lot more often. Just as not only just a refresher, but if you got guys that are coming in new that maybe not know what's going on, you can, something like this, Ghost Rider, and by the end of this, is such a perfect example of what to do to try to stick to the continuity of it all, while also acknowledging the fact that there are gonna be new readers that aren't really knowledgeable on what's going on, and they may be a little bit confused. That's how you explain it to them, as opposed to just retconning the whole thing for the sake of bringing in new characters. So Ghost Rider issue 1, I've been on a huge Ghost Rider kick, going through some of these old Ghost Rider comics as well, and I think it's a decent addition. We'll see what happens. You can't really tell a lot of what's gonna pop off with first issues. Before I judge it harshly, I'm gonna give it like 4 or 5 issues in, 4, 5, 6 issues maybe, before I can say, all right, this is not my thing, or this is gonna be a good thing or not. So, so far, so decent.